Sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding under your bed. Sometimes they're sleeping in the room next to yours. My name is Alex, and I'm 19 years old now. But when I was 15, I lived with a killer and had no idea. This is the story of how a desperate need for rent money almost got me and my brother killed. Let me take you back to 2020, the year everything fell apart. I was 15 years old and living in a tiny rundown apartment with my older brother, Matt. The place was awful. The carpet had stains we couldn't identify. The bathroom sink leaked constantly. The walls were so thin we could hear our neighbors arguing at 3 in the morning. But it was all we had. My mom had kicked me out the year before. Long story, but basically she chose her new boyfriend over her own kid. So Matt, who was only 21 at the time, took me in. He became my parent, my protector, my entire family. Life was already hard, and then the pandemic hit. My charter school didn't offer online classes, so suddenly I had no school. Then my part-time job at a local grocery store let me go because they were cutting hours. I went from helping with bills to being completely dependent on Matt. Matt was working at a warehouse, doing 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week, but it still wasn't enough. We were behind on rent, behind on electricity. We ate ramen noodles for dinner most nights because that's all we could afford. We needed help, desperately. That's when Matt met Aaron. It was at a bonfire party one of Matt's co-workers threw. Matt came home that night and told me he'd met someone who needed a place to stay. His name's Aaron? Matt said. He's going through a rough patch. Lost his job, got evicted, the whole deal. He said he'd pay us cash every month if we let him crash here. I was hesitant. We didn't know this guy. But Matt explained that Aaron had offered to pay $400 a month, which was exactly what we needed to stay afloat. Plus, he seems cool, Matt added. He's quiet, keeps to himself. It'll be fine. 2 days later, Aaron moved in. He showed up with 2 duffel bags and a backpack. That was it. No furniture, no boxes, nothing. Just those 3 bags. Aaron was in his late 20s, average height, skinny build. He had this intense way of staring at people, like he was studying them. It made me uncomfortable from day one. But he handed Matt $400 in cash that first day, so I pushed my discomfort aside. The first week was okay. Aaron kept to himself mostly. He'd stay in his room, which was really just our tiny 3rd bedroom that barely fit a mattress. He'd come out to use the bathroom or grab food, then disappear again. But then the weird stuff started. First, I noticed he barely showered, like maybe once a week. The apartment started smelling funky, and Matt had to ask him to shower more often. Aaron got defensive about it, but eventually agreed. Then there was the food thing. Aaron was super possessive about his groceries. He'd buy stuff and label everything with his name. Not just writing his name, but using thick black marker to write Aaron's do not touch on everything. His milk, his bread, his cereal, everything. Matt and I thought it was weird, but whatever. We didn't want his stuff anyway. The Pizza Hut thing was bizarre though. Every single day, sometimes twice a day, Aaron would order Pizza Hut delivery. Same order every time. Large pepperoni pizza and breadsticks. Our apartment started smelling like permanent pizza. The delivery drivers knew our address by heart. It was excessive and strange, but again, it was his money. What really bothered me were his rants about cops. Aaron would randomly start talking about how much he hated police officers, how they were corrupt, how the system was broken, how he wanted to hurt them. At first, Matt and I thought he was just venting. Lots of people don't like cops. But Aaron would go on for hours. Detailed, violent fantasies about what he'd do if he ever got the chance. It made my skin crawl. But here's the thing. Aaron was never late with rent. Not once. He'd hand Matt that cash on the 1st of every month like clockwork. And we needed that money. We needed it so badly that I ignored every red flag waving in front of my face. Then came the butter incident. It was a regular Tuesday morning. I woke up around 9, shuffled to the kitchen in my pajamas, ready to make some toast. I opened the fridge and grabbed the butter. It was just sitting there in the butter compartment like it always was. I didn't even think about it. I placed the butter on the counter and was reaching for the bread when I felt something hard slam into the back of my head. Pain exploded through my skull. I spun around, dizzy and confused, to see Aaron standing there holding a can of soup. He'd thrown it at my head. "That's my butter," he screamed. His face was red, veins popping in his neck. "That's my fucking butter." I was so stunned I just stood there. Then I quickly put the butter on the table. "I'm sorry," I stammered. I didn't know. I'm sorry. But Aaron wasn't done. Before I could react, he backhanded me across the face. I saw stars. Literally. My vision went white for a second and I tasted blood in my mouth. Aaron started ranting about how I never contributed to bills, about how I was always eating his food, about how disrespectful I was. None of it was true. I barely ate anything because we couldn't afford much, and I certainly never touched his labeled food before. But he went on for 20 minutes. I just stood there, holding my face, trying not to cry. Finally, he stopped. He took a deep breath, picked up the butter and handed it to me. I'm sorry, he said, like nothing had happened. You can use it. Then he walked away. I immediately went to Matt's room and told him everything. Matt was furious. He said he'd handle it. The next week, we were all in the living room. Matt was on the couch, I was in the chair, and Aaron was sitting on the floor. Out of nowhere, Aaron looked at Matt and said, "You know, I thought about shooting you the other day." The room went silent. My heart stopped. When you told me I needed to be nicer to Alex, I got really angry, Aaron continued calmly. I thought about getting my gun and shooting you right there. But then you left for work, and I had time to think about it. I calmed down. I'm really proud of myself for that. He said it like he was talking about resisting a cookie, not murder. Matt's face went pale. Do you even have a gun? He asked. Aaron smiled. I might. It's none of your business. After that, Matt and I completely avoided Aaron. We'd lock our bedroom doors at night. We'd text each other when we were home alone with him. We started looking for ways to kick him out. Then Aaron went on a meth binge. We didn't know he was using drugs until one night when we heard crashing sounds from his room. Matt and I ran out to find Aaron's door open and his window shattered. Aaron had jumped out of our second-story window. We rushed outside and found him in the bushes, bleeding from cuts all over his body. He was laughing. Don't call 911, he begged. Please don't call them. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. He wasn't fine. He could barely stand. But he refused medical help, and we couldn't force him. He climbed back up the stairs, went to his room, and didn't come out for 2 days. After that, it was like living with a ghost. Aaron stopped talking to us completely. He'd come out for food or to use the bathroom, but he wouldn't make eye contact or speak. It was terrifying and uncomfortable, but at least he wasn't threatening us anymore. Then came the last day I ever saw him. I had bought a car over the summer, a total piece of junk that cost $700. It barely ran, but it was mine. Well, technically it was in Matt's name because I was only 15, but I paid for it with money I'd saved. Aaron came to me one afternoon with an offer. Can I borrow your car for $15? He asked. I need to run some errands. Money was tight, $15 could buy groceries, so I said yes. I regret that decision every single day. Aaron took my car and left. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 5. By hour 10, I was panicking. Aaron wasn't answering his phone. I realized my learner's permit was in the glove compartment. I told Matt, who tried to calm me down. He'll turn up, Matt said. He probably just got caught up with something. But he didn't turn up. Not that night. Not the next day. A week went by. I'd completely given up hope of ever seeing my car again. I was devastated. That car represented freedom and independence, and now it was gone. Then Matt got a phone call that changed everything. It was from South Carolina State Police. They'd found my car. It had been impounded. But that wasn't the shocking part. Aaron had been arrested. Turns out he had a warrant out for his arrest in Florida. When police pulled him over in South Carolina for a broken taillight, he panicked and ran. A high-speed chase followed. Aaron busted all 4 tires trying to get away before the cops finally caught him. They extradited him back to Florida. And when Matt asked what the warrant was for, the officer told us something that made my blood run cold. Aaron had shot his cousin in the head a year earlier, over a dice game and an argument about a girl. He killed him, shot him dead, and fled the state. For an entire year, Aaron had been running, hiding, moving from place to place, staying off the radar. And somehow, he'd ended up living in our apartment, sleeping 10 feet away from me. A murderer, an actual killer, in our home. I couldn't breathe when I heard the news. All I could think about was that morning with the butter, how he'd hit me, how angry he'd gotten over something so small. What if I'd pushed back? What if I'd argued with him? Would he have shot me too? And that comment about shooting Matt, that wasn't just talk. He really thought about it. He really considered killing my brother. We'd been living with a ticking time bomb and didn't even know it. The police explained that Aaron had been slowly making his way north after the murder, probably trying to get as far from Florida as possible. Then, for some unknown reason, he'd started heading south again. That's when he got pulled over. One broken taillight brought his whole escape to an end. As for my car, I never saw it again. It was evidence in the case. By the time everything was sorted out, the car had been sold at auction to cover impound fees. $700 gone, just like that. But honestly, I didn't care about the car anymore. I cared that Matt and I were alive. Aaron is in prison now. He was convicted of murder and a bunch of other charges related to fleeing. He'll be there for a very long time. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd never met him, if Matt had never gone to that bonfire party, if we'd struggled with money and figured it out another way. Would Aaron's cousin still be alive? Would we have avoided months of fear? But I also think about how desperate we were, how badly we needed help. We weren't trying to be reckless. We were just two kids trying to survive. I'm 19 now. Matt is 25. We don't live in that apartment anymore. We moved out the month after Aaron was arrested. We're doing better. Matt got a promotion. I'm working full-time and saving money for college. We're rebuilding our lives. But I'll never forget what it felt like to learn I'd been living with a murderer. The nightmares lasted for months. Every sound in the night made me jump. Every stranger made me nervous. I've learned some hard lessons from all this. I've learned that desperation can make you overlook danger, that red flags exist for a reason, that trusting strangers can have deadly consequences. The strangest part is how normal everything seemed at the time. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. But when you're in survival mode, when you're just trying to make it through each day, you convince yourself things aren't as bad as they seem. I remember one time Aaron showed me a scar on his arm. He said he got it in a fight back home. The way he described that fight should have told me everything. He talked about violence like it was nothing. But I didn't connect the dots. I was 15 and scared of being homeless. Matt and I talk about it sometimes now, about how close we came to being victims ourselves, about how one wrong move could have ended with us on the news instead of Aaron. We got lucky. That's the truth. We got incredibly lucky that Aaron decided we weren't worth the risk. That he left when he did, that his past caught up with him before he could hurt us. I've thought a lot about Aaron's cousin over the years. About the family that lost someone over something so stupid, a dice game and a girl. That's what Aaron's rage cost. I wonder if there were warning signs for them too, if they saw the same anger, the same violence brewing under the surface. The guilt I feel about that is complicated. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't help Aaron escape. But I gave him shelter. I gave him a place to hide while a family somewhere was grieving and searching for answers. That weighs on me. Therapy has helped. I've been seeing a counselor for 2 years now, working through the trauma of those months. She reminds me that I was a child in an impossible situation. All I can do is share this story and hope someone learns from my mistake. If something feels off about a person, trust that feeling. If someone shows you violent tendencies, believe them. Don't ignore the signs because you need something from them. Your safety is worth more than money. Your life is worth more than rent. I lived with a murderer and survived, but Aaron's cousin didn't, and that's something I think about every single day. Stay safe out there, trust your instincts, and never let desperation override your common sense. Because sometimes the person offering to help you is the most dangerous person you'll ever meet. In the months after Aaron's arrest, sleep stopped feeling safe. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the refrigerator made my body tense. Even though he was locked away hundreds of miles from me, my mind didn't believe it. I'd wake up in the middle of the night convinced I'd heard his footsteps outside my door. Matt tried to reassure me. He'd say, "He's gone, Alex. He's not coming back." But my brain didn't work on logic anymore. It worked on fear. The first time I tried to drive again, my hands shook so badly I had to pull over. Every car behind me felt like it might be following. Every stranger's face at a gas station made me want to run. It's strange how one person's madness can stain the entire world around you. Matt handled things differently. He buried himself in work. He worked double shifts, took side jobs, and kept pretending everything was fine. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he flinched at sudden noises. Once, he woke up screaming in the middle of the night. He said he dreamt Aaron was standing in the doorway again, smiling. We didn't talk about Aaron much at first. We both wanted to forget. But forgetting isn't healing, it's just silence wearing a mask. A few months later, the police returned some of our old belongings from evidence stuff they'd taken during their investigation. When I opened one of the boxes, there was a pizza box inside. From our apartment, I froze. The smell was gone, but the memory hit like a punch. That greasy box was a time capsule of fear. I threw it out immediately, but the image stuck. That night, I started writing everything down, every memory, every strange detail I could recall. The first time Aaron smiled, the first time he raised his voice, the way he laughed after smashing the window. It was painful, but writing gave me control. Words were the only way to take back power from someone who'd stolen it. I didn't share it with anyone for months, but eventually, I showed the pages to my therapist. She said, "This isn't just trauma, Alex. It's survival turned into meaning." That sentence changed how I looked at everything. For so long, I'd thought of myself as the kid who almost got killed, but she reminded me that surviving danger doesn't make you broken, it makes you aware. It teaches you what danger looks like before it wears its mask. Around the 1-year mark, Matt and I drove past our old neighborhood. The building had been repainted, but I still recognized our window. Someone else was living there now. There were plants on the sill, curtains. Life had moved on in that space, but it still looked haunted to me. We sat there in silence for a long time. Then Matt said, "We did what we had to. We got out alive." That was the first time either of us said it out loud alive. A few weeks later, I decided to reach out to Aaron's cousin's family. Not directly, I didn't know if they'd even want to hear from me, but I wrote a letter. I told them I was sorry. That I didn't know who Aaron really was. That if I had, maybe I could have called someone, done something. I never mailed it. But writing it helped. It was my way of saying goodbye to the guilt that wasn't mine to carry. The nightmares still came sometimes. I'd dream I was back in the apartment, hearing him pacing in his room. Then, in the dream, he'd stop and that silence would be worse than the noise. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat. Therapy helped with that too. My therapist taught me to reclaim the ending, to rewrite the nightmare in my head. In the new version, Aaron gets arrested right after hitting me with the soup can. The police arrive. He's gone before he can hurt anyone else. It's not real, but it helps me sleep. By the time I turned 19, I'd finally stopped living in fear of what might have been. I started focusing on what was. Matt and I both enrolled in night classes. I picked up a steady job detailing cars. For the first time in years, I started saving money again, not out of fear, but out of hope. Sometimes people ask why I tell this story at all. Why not just let it fade away and move on? The answer is simple. Silence protects the wrong people. If my story makes even one person trust their instincts, then maybe it prevents another tragedy. There's one memory I've never shared until now. It happened the night before Aaron borrowed my car. I was up late, sitting in the living room scrolling on my phone. Aaron walked out of his room, quiet as a shadow. He didn't notice I was awake. I watched him kneel next to his duffel bag and pull out a small black handgun. He checked it like someone checking their wallet before going out, then zipped the bag and went back to bed. I remember thinking, maybe it's fake. Maybe it's just for protection. I convinced myself it didn't matter. That image still haunts me, because that was the same gun he used on his cousin. I saw it and did nothing. The guilt of that realization doesn't go away easily. But I've learned to see it for what it is, a warning etched into memory. The next time I sense danger, I'll act. I'll call for help. I'll trust that uneasy feeling instead of rationalizing it away. These days, when I walk past people on the street, I sometimes catch myself wondering who they really are, who they could be when the world stops watching. It's not paranoia, it's awareness. The difference is subtle but life-saving. Matt and I still joke about roommate trauma sometimes. It's our way of coping. But behind the jokes, there's a shared understanding that we'll never let desperation make our decisions again. Money problems can be solved. Lives can't be replaced. Last Christmas, Matt gave me a keychain shaped like a tiny lock. "For all the doors you'll keep safe from now on," he said. It was his way of saying we made it through. I keep that keychain on me every day. Not as a reminder of fear, but of survival. Of the fact that we lived through something that could have ended differently. Sometimes I still see Aaron's face in my mind, that blank expression he wore when he talked about hurting people. But now, when I picture him, I also picture the prison bars, the distance, the fact that he can't hurt anyone else. That thought brings peace. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can't always see danger coming, but you can choose how you react when it shows up at your door. You can run, you can freeze, or you can survive. And survival, even when messy, even when terrifying, is its own kind of victory. So, if you ever find yourself questioning your instincts, remember this story. Remember that evil doesn't wear a sign. It pays rent. It shakes your hand. It thanks you for dinner. And it only takes one moment, one broken taillight, one good decision to change the ending. Matt and I got our second chance. Aaron's cousin never did. That's why I'll keep telling this story. Because silence might keep you comfortable, but the truth might just keep you alive.